All right, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and take a minute and rate each polynomial as a product of two binomials. So what that means is you are looking for a GCF. So in example number 1, my GCF is y minus 1. So if you take out y minus 1, go ahead, Micah. They're over on the windowsill. You can go find one. So you take out your GCF of y minus 1 because that's common in both terms. And that leaves behind 8 and negative x. So rewriting each of those as a product of two binomials. So binomial means two terms. By using our GCF, you have y minus 1 and 8 minus x. In number 2, your GCF is x minus 3. So you take out your x minus 3 as a factor. And that leaves behind x minus 2. So what is the GCF in number 3? Perfect. So we're going to take out b plus c. And this one's a little bit tricky. So there's the x, but in front of b plus c is an imaginary 1. So the GCF leaves behind x plus 1. You need that 1 to act as a placeholder in the problem. Okay, what's the GCF in number 4? R minus 1. And again, you have a placeholder here of a 1. So that leaves behind m minus 1. So if you were to distribute that r minus 1, it would go to both terms. Okay? So what we're doing in here today is factor by grouping. So we're going to do something very similar to what we just did in that warm-up. And we're going to continue to do that for all of the terms that we are looking at. So we are looking at what we call factor by grouping today. So factor by grouping is a factoring technique that we use when we have 4 terms. It's a factoring technique we use when we have 4 terms. The steps are as follows. You're going to group together the first 2 terms. Then you're going to group together the last 2 terms. And then you're going to take out your GCF of those terms. And then you're going to take out the GCF again and rewrite your answer identically to how we just did the warm-up. So the warm-up is kind of picking up at step 3. So what we just did in the warm-up is kind of picking up this process at step 3. So I actually almost think the directions are more confusing than the actual process of which we are going to look at. So let's look at an example. We have 6x squared minus 6xy plus 5x minus 15y. So we can see from the very beginning that I have 4 terms. So we can see from the get-go that we have 4 terms. We are going to group together the first 2 terms. And you're going to group together the last 2 terms. And then you're going to look at each of those terms individually. So we're going to look at the first 2 terms and take out the GCF. So you're ignoring what I circled in blue. So what can you take out of 2 and 6? What's the GCF of 2 and 6, Nick? Good, it's 2x. So that leaves behind x minus 6 divided by 2 is 3. We took out the x, so that leaves behind a y. So the GCF of the first 2 terms is 2x, leaving behind x minus 3y. What is the GCF of the next 2 terms? So what's the GCF of 5x and 15y? Go ahead, Nick. 5. So we're going to take out a 5, and that leaves behind x minus 3y. So do you see how now this looks a lot like what we did in the warm-up? And what should happen is what's inside should match. So both times you have x minus 3y. So that becomes my new GCF. So you get x minus 3y. And that leaves behind 2x plus 5. Let's try another example. So we have 8x to the 4th plus 6x minus 28x cubed minus 21. Now, you have to be cautious when you do your grouping here. So we're going to group the first 2 terms. When you group your last 2 terms, the negative on the 28 goes inside the grouping. The negative on the 28 goes inside my grouping. That negative is attached to the 28. So, what is the GCF of 8x to the 4th and 6x? What can I take out both from the 8 and the 6, as well as x to the 4th and x? Okay, next. Perfect. So I take out a 2x. That leaves behind 4x cubed plus 3. And again, whatever I take out, I should be able to FOIL back in and get what I started with. In the blue, remember I want what's inside the red parenthesis right now to match what I leave behind in the blue parenthesis. So what do you notice about what I highlighted inside the red? What do you notice about both of those terms? They're both what? They're both positive. What do you notice about both terms inside the blue right now? They're both negative. So I am going to incorporate a negative as part of my GCF. I'm going to incorporate a negative as part of my GCF. So what's going to be the GCF of the blue stuff if I want to incorporate a negative? Go ahead, Nick, give it a shot. Perfect. We're going to take out a negative 7. So that's going to leave behind 4x cubed plus 3. By taking out a negative, what's left behind is positive. So the factored form is 4x cubed plus 3 times 2x minus 7. That is considered, so this is the original. This answer here is what we call factored form. So if you get asked to factored, you're going to rewrite it as a product of binomials. Anybody want to tell me what I'm going to group together to start? Go ahead, Nick. Good. And then how about that next terms? When I group those together, what do I have to make sure I do? When you group together the second part, you got to make sure your negative is inside the parentheses. Make sure your negative is inside. Someone other than Nick want to give me my GCF? Someone other than Nick? All right, Madison. Because I know you know. Okay, so yes, we get 3x squared. What does that leave behind? Madison, what's it leave behind? Careful, not minus 1. 9 divided by 3 is? 3. Yeah, so it's going to leave behind x minus 3, okay? So always just do yourself a quick check. Make sure if you FOIL it back in, you get what you started with. Now, to make the blue match the red, there's not a whole lot of GCF to take out, but there's something I need to remove to make it match. What do I take out? Go ahead, Nick. Yeah, I'm going to take out a negative 1. Bringing out a negative 1 leaves you with a positive x and a negative 3. So we get a problem that looks like this for our final answer. How many of us really like this lesson? Yeah, I see a lot of hands going up because it's pretty easy, right? No? Who does not like this lesson? Who's still confused? You still like it? If you don't like it, I'm sad because it's the technique that we're utilizing here. So please, if you have questions, this technique is going to be what we use for the next 4 days. Event, yes. Yes. That's probably, Dakota, that's probably next Monday. So like tomorrow, we're going to factor where A is equal to 1. Wednesday, you guys will do a delta math. Thursday, we're going to review everything we've done so far. So we're going to do A equal 1. Today, graphing with factoring with grouping. The difference of squares, perfect squares, GCF. So that'll be Thursday. We're going to do like everything. And then Friday, we're going to learn how to factor if the first term has a value other than 1. And that's where it starts to get a little tricky. And then on Monday, we're going to use that to solve, which is only one step further than factoring. Okay, 4x cubed minus 8x squared minus 9x plus 18. So group the first two. Group the last two. Bring out a GCF. So what can I take out at 4x cubed? I'm so sorry, I don't know why the board keeps flickering. Minus 8x squared. What can I take out, Nick? Perfect. And that leaves x minus 2. The GCF of negative 9x and 18. Nick? Bigger? Dakota, what do you think? Yeah, negative 9. So you get x minus 2 left behind. So, Nick, you know you would have known it was wrong. What was inside your parentheses wouldn't have matched with the 3. That's okay. I like that. That's a learning opportunity. Now, this is where we had to know our technique from Friday. Does anybody know what 4x squared minus 9 is? Wow. It's the technique we learned on Friday. 4x squared minus 9. Good, Jordan. Yes. So what is underlined is what we call this type of problem is what you call a difference of squares. And it factors exactly as Jordan just said. As 2x minus 3, 2x plus 3. So sometimes our problems involve factoring twice. It's called a difference of squares. So when you have two perfect squares being subtracted, so that's where the difference means subtraction, and then squares means perfect squares. So 4 and 9 are perfect squares and they're being subtracted. So it factors as a special formula. And that's what we did on Friday. Because that's it for your notes today. Your homework is the next 2 pages in that review packet. It's the factor by grouping and then a review of GCFing. Factor by factoring. Wow. Factor by grouping. And then it's the worksheet that follows that I believe says like by GCF or something on it. So it's the front and back of those next 2 pages. And tomorrow we'll do the next 2 pages. And that should finish out your packet, correct? Today and tomorrow will be due on Wednesday.
So, quickly, we'll just do this.
Yes, and then you're stopping because the next one's notes. Yep, so just front and back for today.